Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Den, how's it going, man?
Good, how are you?
Doing pretty good, staying busy.
It's great.
Hey, Matt. All right, got more people joining in here.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. Staying busy today.
Mhm. Yeah,
Got
absolutely.
lots of exciting updates here coming in as we let more people join in here. We're going to be doing more platform and system updates a little bit later in the call after a few more people are able to join. Hey, Graham. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dom.
So until then, we'll get started with some general Q&A. Din, you were the first one to show up, so we'll toss it over to you. If you have any questions, you can kick it off here.
Yeah, I think first of all, nice to meet you all.
Hi.
I have one question regarding, one second, the chatbot. Like
Yeah,
in
for
what
sure.
scenario? So we have a user, right? The agency. In what
Mhm.
scenario one user will need multiple chatbot? Like one for the website, one for the Instagram, one for the Facebook?
No, so I mean, in that scenario, you could have one chatbot and then use the API to call messages and interact with that same chatbot via different channels. The typical use case that we see agencies using Stammer for multiple chatbots is when they're offering a customer-facing chatbot and then one that's internally facing based off of their documentation and standard operating procedures. So we typically happens with like sales orgs or sales teams when they bring on a new person. The top of the whoever's running that sales team doesn't necessarily want to have to sit there and answer every single question when they're bringing on all the typical questions that somebody might ask on a sales call. And so you can create it as a way to for a training purposes, so people could just simply ask questions about the processes of the team, or it could actually, you could train it to act as a potential customer and then use that as a training resource to have someone go up against that bot as a training.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, you're welcome. Matt, we'll go to you. How's it going?
Yeah, very good, thanks. I'm totally new to the platform, and I just wanted to come on this call and just see what it was all about, really, and try and sort of hear
Cool.
a few questions and see what's what. I've got a couple of ideas, which sort of there was actually quite interesting that you just mentioned one external and one internal facing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that we might be able to use something like this for like providing broad business knowledge to all of the workforce, all of the team.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking, like you were saying earlier about using source documents and standard operating procedures, those sorts of things. But I wanted to ask, is it possible to also draw sort of do document retrieval using something like this? So if I were to say, oh, I'm looking for this particular policy, would the chatbot be able to recognize, right, that policy is stored here and provide me a link to that?
Yeah. So it's actually it's something that we've been working on internally for a little while, called we're coining it Citations. And essentially it will allow you to see where the source material is coming from based off of the response. So for example, we have it actually set up as an internal testing tool right now. So I can show you a little example of what that's going to kind of look like. This is obviously a developer example, but this should be a good way to kind of illustrate that. Okay, so for example, if we ask just like a very simple question, we can see that this is the response that it gives, and this is something that will be used in the future to generate these citations. So we can see that these are the top results based off of the knowledge base search that is using the query that we just sent it, what can you do? And it's then using that query and then searching it against the knowledge base of all the information that's associated with this specific chatbot. And so you can see that there's a level of certainty based off of the responses that it's generating with that information. And so as it stands right now, it's just providing where that information is coming from, whether or not it's a question and answer, or if it's coming from a website URL or a specific document. And as we start to get this feature to be a little bit more ironed out, we'll be able to actually hyperlink these sources in here. So that way the person could be like, oh, I want to see exactly where that is featured on that specific thing. Click the link, and then it would bring them to that resource, or potentially even download that document via their browser. These are kind of all things that we've been working on, but it's we've completed it as an internal testing tool. So we just need to kind of customer face it, and then it should be released out to everyone fairly shortly.
Oh,
And
that's
Ross,
cool.
I believe that's actually live now. So
Oh, it is live. Okay.
yes, I believe so. Yeah, I'll double check. But we released it while I was in Japan, and then it should be good now. It should be out.
Okay. Well, we'll be doing a full release notes on that, because I haven't made release notes on that yet. So we'll be
Got
doing
it.
that later
Perfect.
today. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting. And I mean, for me personally, my idea, if it's possible to have a hyperlink to download the files as well as a particular reference to each one, I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's where one of the next kind of things that we're going to be implementing more in depth is the character count limitations within the knowledge bases. And so this is going to be an additional feature that will allow agencies to make another stream of revenue by upselling higher volume knowledge bases. And Dan, we'll get to you next. The ability, we've had people come in and try to like scrape all of Wikipedia, and we're like, no, you can't do that. But if you want to pay for it, we'll let you do it.
Yeah,
So the
sure.
idea is we'll be able to release that out, and then in addition to some of these other things that we go.
Cool. Just one sort of one more question, if you don't mind. I know obviously using a large language model, the responses from a particular prompt may not always be the same. Is there a way in Stammer to sort of standardize responses for certain questions, or is it sort of at the mercy of, if you'll excuse the term, at the mercy of ChatGPT?
Kind of. So we can do our best, and the way that we've implemented that is as in two specific places. The first is going to be in this prioritize question and answer results. So if you click and check this button, this will actually prioritize the information that is in this Q&A section. And this is exactly where the information is retained when you're asking it questions and then clicking train better response. So if I was to update this text right here and click train response, that would then update it and add it as a new question and answer pair in the knowledge base. And so ideally, the way that these LLMs work is they're doing it's text prediction. So if we can say, here's what you need to predict exactly word for word, ideally, it should just theoretically respond that exact word for word response. Mm-hmm. That being said, like you mentioned, these can be kind of unpredictable, where there's some variations in that response where it won't be the exact response. It might add a yes, comma, or a no, comma, and then give that response. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of doing our best, and then within the limitations or restrictions of OpenAI.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Dan, let's go to you. How's it going?
Going good. Yes, thank you. I have a quick question. My question would be, are you guys looking to develop, or have you thought about developing, like giving it intention And what I mean by that is like, I want to drive my bot to basically schedule appointments with my clients. And I want to basically put it into, let's call it the website for right now. And I basically want the bot to, give a bit of helpful information. And then I want it to kind of guide into, would you like to schedule a call with a representative? And then, ideally it would talk through the process and schedule it, but even short term, if, I've gotten it to give a Calendly link by like going into the text and saying, if I do this, provide this Calendly link to schedule a meeting. But is there, I've used things like WooSender where you can interactively, and it kind of intentionally tries to drive you to scheduling a meeting. Whereas like I feel as if like from a really kind of core functionality, like, it really adds a ton of value to be able to put that in a position where it's scheduling appointments for you. And that's kind of like what you've set its intention to be, right? So it's always kind of asking questions and trying to guide into a sales meeting. Almost something along those lines. I'm just wondering if you guys have thought about that at all.
So the way that we've tested and implemented that into certain use cases has just been fine reduction of the base system prompt. So I can share a quick example here that I was actually working on earlier. And this might help give a little bit more context. So I've even been using ChatGPT now to help me rewrite my base system prompts by saying, help me rewrite this for a LLM model to better understand as its own prompt. And it actually will more like systematize.
That's amazing.
It's a word, but like systematize the prompt. And I'll show you. Let me show you.
That's amazing.
And Ross, we should probably also mention that we are working on that exact functionality that he's describing right now. And I have successfully been able to get a chatbot. Now, this is on the command line interface, but I've been able to get it to schedule meetings and then go and perform an actual action on an API to schedule a meeting. So that is certainly in development, and we're working on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like, I think for me, that's like I go around and I'm like, these chatbots are amazing, and being able to give information and is all great. But if I want to use ChatGPT, I'll just go to ChatGPT and use it.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, well, what is the power that I like want to get out of this thing? And it's like, I want it to be my assistant. And if I want it to be my assistant, scheduling meetings is almost the most major thing that I could take off my plate, and almost creating an AI automated appointment setter is essentially what I would want to go towards. And then you're just setting salespeople up and streamlining that kind of work, that front end workflow to just stream clients to sales meetings.
Exactly. And one thing we've said, Ross, is that our technology is the driver, and it basically keeps chat in the future. It's going to be keeping ChatGPT on task with what it wants to do, right? Because ChatGPT is fantastic at like question and response type scenarios.
Totally.
But when you want it to go and do something, it's not reliable at doing that. But our code will be driving it, keeping it on track, kind of like the manager of ChatGPT, if that makes sense. And we're working on the code for those use cases now.
And
totally makes sense.
This is the structure that we've found where you can actually kind of quote unquote code it, no code it to do that kind of systematized
wow
process.
This is what I feel like I'm looking for. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. You're
good.
This is cool.
So like prior to this, and I believe Drew's in here as well. Drew's one of our account managers. He was actually the one that came up with this process. But prior to this, it was simply just writing out sentences. I want you to do this, then I want you to do this, then do this.
Right.
When you actually tell, and then so I took that, pasted that into GPT and was like, hey, make this a better prompt for yourself. This is what it gave me. And then now when we go and test this, we can just start a new one. So if we go through this, like Main Street, I believe it should just walk us through the whole process unless it picks up the last chat. Might pick up the last chat. Of course. It's always in the live demo when
Of course. Yeah.
it doesn't work perfectly. Yeah, let's try this. It's funny because I was literally just making the landing page for this with this exact example and making screenshots. Like literally. So this is what it should do. Like answer the address, ask for the thing, and then eventually it'll get to the point where it'll give you the quote and then ask for if you want to book a meeting, and then it gives you the link to book the meeting.
Yes, I think this is what I'm looking for, is almost this type of direction. And can you share that prompt that you created, or just like almost even maybe a link of how you kind of creatively came up with that prompt, or just some kind of direction? Because that's you're hitting exactly where I would like to go.
Yep. I'll put one in the
Appreciate
chat. Drew, can you actually find that one from the knowledge base, please, and put that in the chat?
Yep, I got it.
Cool. Let's go to Chris.
How you doing, Ross?
Good. How you doing?
Good, man. I missed you at the Duncan seminar thing.
Yeah.
I was trying to get there, but I couldn't make the flight. I talked to Drew on the phone, and so I was able to get in kind of early before that change. And my thing is, I'm super new. I don't do anything with coding. We hire web developers and stuff like that. So I'm buying it for my service-based business. It's basically called Team Veterans, and veterans are running around doing all the services that everyone else does. So we have pest control. We're doing HVAC in January. We'll get into landscaping and garage doors. So I'm trying to put the bot on both, which was kind of cool, internal, because I'm sitting here trying to train someone right now. So having a guide or something on that would be amazing. Like, hey, this works this way, or do a use case so I can apply that.
Okay.
And then we're trying to go forward facing to the customer, because they call and ask the same questions all the time. And so Drew was showing me where I can embed the chatbot in the website versus being a chatbot that pops out. So we're going to try to do that. I didn't know how to get a hold of you. I know I talked to Jason. I mean, you can shoot me a DM or I can email you or whatever, but he was saying that you guys worked out something to where I could get a hold of you and we can work more on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you I'll pull your email up and I'll send you an email.
Cool. That sounds awesome, man. Yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out where should I start to see the use case, not as a white label sell, but more of a service-based business is kind of what I'm looking for.
Gotcha. Yeah. So one of the good examples that we've used in the past. So one of my business partners, Kyle, we run a dumpster hauling rental business. And so we've used that to provide quotes in the similar way that we just kind of looked at for real estate. So for example, a person who, I need to like get rid of some stuff, they'll come to the website, and instead of having to look at the website or figure out where to go or I don't know, they can just, the chatbot be like, what are you trying to get rid of? And then the person's like, I've got 5 mattresses I need to get rid of, or I've got a yard full of concrete I need to get rid of. And then based on that, those answers, the chatbot then kind of controls and walks that user through a conversation to provide a quote, a ballpark quote that then leads them to book a meeting. And I think that's where we're seeing the success for specifically service-based, is it's answering those 80% often, FAQ questions that happen most often, and then pushing that people to that link, so that way they're warmed up a little bit more prior to that first touch point with somebody on the phone or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's where I'm stuck in between, is do I do a funnel or do I do a chatbot? I'm probably should do both, but if I could stop that phone from freaking ringing, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And I think with the funnel side of things, that is think of that as like the foundation around the thing of around the chatbot. So that is something that we can definitely go over more in depth together on another call.
Perfect. I'll wait for your email. Thank you, man.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. Graham, let's go to you. How's it going? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
Trying to get the chatbot kind of remember something, but as you said, it's not restarting the conversation. Is there something you need to do to get it to restart? So when you're testing it, because it starts in the middle of the conversation again for some bizarre reason.
So sometimes, and Tim, maybe you can provide a little bit more clarity on that. It all it's all reliant on the user's session. So
Okay.
Tim, can you pop in a little bit more on
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Ross, can you show that the chat window you were showing earlier?
Mhm.
And so every time we send a conversation to the ChatGPT API, we provide the prior messages within that conversation. So if you want to kind of start over, there's the refresh button there that you just need to click.
Where's
And
that?
we've also added recently this debug mode. So if you go to edit your chatbot and then go down to advanced settings and then click on debug mode and then click update chatbot, what you're going to see is exactly actually what we send ChatGPT. And this will allow you to kind of see and understand, oh, what is it actually see? Why is it getting these prior conversations? And you can see that. So this is a fresh one. So if we wait for it to respond,
Weird that it's like not doing what it was doing 5 seconds before.
yeah, scroll down just a bit. Okay, and here's what was actually sent to ChatGPT right here. So if you ever want to restart the conversation, just press the refresh button basically, and
Right.
it will clear out all prior conversations and should start anew.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of helped. See, what seems to have happened is it starts to. I've created a series of questions because basically I'm creating a demo of a lead funnel, for want of a better word. So it's like an appointment booking funnel, but it's just a demonstration. But what it seems to happen is it starts to go through it very, very systematically, and you're thinking this is going really wonderful. And then for no apparent reason, it just kind of decides to go off kilter. It's like a mad teenager, if you know what I mean.
That sounds like GPT 3.5. Are you using 3.5?
I've been using 3. Is 4 going to make that difference?
4 is so a couple of things here. For one thing, 3.5 and 4, I don't know if you've seen the kind of information on the internet, but as they add more censoring to it, it's kind of been proven that it reduces the effectiveness of the chatbots. So it's kind of controversial that they've been doing that. And 3.5 seems to only have been getting worse. I don't use it for my own personal stuff at this point. So I do think from my own experimentation with both 3.5 Turbo and 4 is a lot more likely to stay on task and on track. It's been remarkable with our own testing. So I would advise trying out 4. It performs so much better.
Oh, that's excellent. Ross, you said that you gave ChatGPT a prompt and said improve it. How did you ask that question?
Yeah,
Was it you said?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Let's see.
Because that might well be a starting point. That might be where it's all going a bit wrong.
It's a lot of that stuff. It's like, you know, and I make this, I'm, you know, assumptions that I make about stuff, and then it turns out to be slightly off, and that's that small percentage is where things seem to.
I suppose it might interpret something differently to how you have interpreted it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And why are you doing that? When you do a demonstration, obviously, potentially 2 people could be doing the demonstration at different times in different places. Does that matter? Because they're using the same chatbot. Does it matter? Do they see it as a separate session?
Yes, it should see them as a separate session. Just make sure, obviously, they're using separate computers, and it should just work fine.
So if I change my IP, is that what makes it think it's a different session, or is it something?
No, that is a great question. We do not identify sessions via IP. We identify using kind of a unique browser session key. So
in theory, 2 conversations can't overlap.
yeah, in fact, in theory, if you were to open up a new Chrome like incognito and connect it to your own chatbot, it would interpret that as a different session.
Oh, right, cool.
Yep. But yeah, great question. IP is not an issue. We may use it eventually in the future to like restrict like for if we're getting, you know, DDoS attacks or something on a chatbot, we may restrict by IP in that case, but not currently are we doing anything with IP.
All right, so it's basically a browser-led thing.
Exactly. Yeah, and a session is established that writes, I believe, a cookie or maybe local storage. I can't remember which, but one of those two. So yeah, it is browser established.
Right. So when you're testing something, do you need to keep clearing the cookie?
I do have a Chrome extension which easily does that. So there is that option to clear your cookie. But if you do that, keep in mind that you're also going to be logged out of our application.
So back in, right?
Yeah. So usually if you're testing stuff, you can just hit that refresh button that Ross showed, and it should clear out the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but I'm sorry. You brought up a good point. Yes. If you're testing things based on, well, as long as you clear the conversation, it should be fine, actually. It'll forget the prior messages, even though it'll be the same session key, if that makes sense.
Does this happen after a certain amount of messages that you're noticing? Like, does it often happen after?
Yeah, basically what's happened is I've done, say, a whole person and asked the questions, and we've got to the end. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, we get to the end. There's a few things that sometimes it doesn't go quite in the right order, but that's obviously probably me and the prompt and whatever. But then when you try, and I've been refreshing as if it was a new person to test it, to see if I'm getting this training right. And it's starting at question 6. I've numbered the questions similar to what you've done, it's slightly different. And it's starting at question 6. And I'm thinking, well, if it's a new session, why is it starting at question 6?
That is very strange. Can you send me, we may need to look at that. If you can send me the information and I can run through the questions and kind of understand, maybe we'll see what could be causing that.
Yeah.
Let me put my email in the chat. It's just tim@stammer.ai. So it should be pretty simple, but I'll put it here.
Cool. Soham, go to you. You're muted if you're talking. Yeah, no, we can't hear you.
It says he's not allowed to unmute. Is that a possible thing?
I just asked it to unmute for you. Yeah, recordings will be going up on YouTube. Cool. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'm not sure. It should be just like a default on there.
Yeah, guys, thanks very much. I've got to go. So I put these guys to bed.
Sounds good.
Bye. Thanks a lot. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Usually when that happens, he can't unmute us because it wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi, or the audio wasn't connected at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Dan, we'll go back to you.
Where is that set? I think I'm just trying to figure out where that setting is for the changing it from GPT 3.5 to GPT 4, just to make sure that okay, perfect. Yeah.
And edit, and then
Yep.
advanced settings. It's right here.
My God, I'm blind. Okay, thank you. Sometimes it's right in front of you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yep. The other thing I wanted to showcase people, so we're also testing the newer field called prompt template. So by default, this is something that will default to this. By default, it is set up to be a question and answer customer support bot. And this is like what Tim was mentioning. This is partially a portion of what is being sent to OpenAI. So this is the user's query, and then the results are the results from the knowledge base search based off of the user's query. So this in total is sent to OpenAI, and then that is the response that is received and then sent back to the user. So what's interesting is, and we have clearly marked this. If you don't understand what you're doing, don't mess with this, because you could easily essentially break this. But what you can do is start to make other applications within these AI chatbots. And this will be most useful with the API, because you actually be able to pull data in from other places and then use a specific chatbot with a specific prompt template for a specific use case. And I'll give an example to illustrate this. So for example, let's say we wanted to classify a message to have a positive, neutral, or negative sentiment to figure out how somebody is responding. Now, this is something that natively ChatGPT can do and then respond natively. But if we wanted to systematize it, if we only want to get a specific response, like this text is positive, this text is neutral, not a chat, it's just a response, we can update the prompt template to match that, essentially. Classify the text, and then what is the text that we should classify, and then that's the message that was sent in by the user. You can then kind of take this into different ways, where if the result at that point is then positive or neutral or negative, it can then respond with a specific link. So these are kind of, we're starting to delve kind of deeper into these other use cases, especially with the API, because we'll now be able to do more kind of like one-off specific things. And then once we figure out just specifically in this use case how to then use the knowledge base results as well, we could piece that into this as well to make a customized response for this. So that's just something new that we've been testing. I've been testing. So just thought I'd mention that quickly while we were looking at that. Other quick little updates. So like more people have been testing, and we've been getting some great feedback from our API. So if you're not aware, you can use now the API to connect to a bunch of different things on different platforms like Slack, which has been one of the coolest use cases. Right now you have to use the API, but we just successfully made our Zapier app. So very shortly, the custom Stammer Zapier app will be available. So it'll basically turn this process of pasting in 3 or 4 different things to being pasting in one thing, which is essentially your API key. So it makes that process a lot simpler. And where this process is going to continue is eventually we'll be adding the ability to create these custom Zapier apps for white label agencies. So potentially similar to how GHL offers white label Zapier apps, we'll be doing that as well. Dan?
Yeah, it's amazing. Love what you guys are doing. Do you have some examples of, I see obviously you have you have a bunch of bots that you've already configured, and I'm a little bit new to it as well. I've definitely been playing with ChatGPT quite a bit, but even like some, like the real estate agent, right, that you had would be such a cool one to jump into and see like, oh, I did all of this in the text side of it. I did all of this in the file side. I did all of this in the website, and I scraped the website and got all of these things. And here's actually the Q&A that informs the whole thing. And almost being able to like jump through that case study and being able to like, pick out like, oh, wow, okay, this is like, how he gets it to go through this process, or, kind of we're able to kind of like dig in from a more visual and like hands-on learning perspective of like seeing a case study. I didn't know if you guys had case studies or, you know, even full-blown examples from like, I love the, you know, it sounded like, it looked like you had a whole dashboard of, you know, different examples. It would be
Yeah.
great to even dig into one or two of those. The real estate agent would be amazing to see if, you know, just
Definitely.
throwing that out there. But
would you like it to be in like where you can just like clone it into yours, or would you like to be able to like step one, step two, this is how it's processed and done, or both maybe?
it would, sure. I mean, cloning it would be amazing because then I could hop in and modify and kind of tweak it. I would love to clone it. That would be awesome. Or even just screenshots would be helpful. You know, cloning it would be amazing. I would absolutely take that
Okay.
up. But even just screenshots of understanding, like, here's the text I put in there, here's the files that I included, and this is why, and this is how I reference them, or whatever it is, you know, like, because I find myself
Okay.
writing in the text prompt, you know, here's my Calendly link. Can you, you know, try to schedule an appointment with the end user, like almost trying to like train the chatbot. But like, you guys have had so much more time, I'm sure, in kind of like, you know, modifying, tweaking, using this kind of interface to inform your the prompts. You know, like, I'm definitely good at prompting, but like, you guys have articulated, you know, what goes in what boxes and how to kind of like, you know, massage it the right way is what I would say. And it would be great to see an example that way, either cloning it or even text based, and
Yeah.
even just going through and understanding.
Okay. We'll definitely get the text-based ones added quickly, and then we'll create the clone. I know the cloning feature has been on our roadmap for a while, so I think if it's not already being worked on, that will be worked on shortly. And then
It's being worked on. Yep.
yeah.
Cool.
So
What they do with like high level with like snapshots, is that something that can theoretically be done?
that's kind of the idea. Yeah. And I think eventually we'll get to that point, because one of the original ideas too we had was creating a marketplace where people, when somebody comes up with a really good one, like the real estate example, they could put it out into the marketplace and
It's
then
genius.
potentially offer to resell it as another way to make money.
So generally speaking, that's better if the chatbot's generic to the industry. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely better. It's putting the right foot forward for sure. Yeah. It doesn't restrict it, I would say, though. It's not like it's not necessarily a hindrance, but yeah. Adam?
Gonna unmute there. Thank you, Ross, and thank you, Tim, for all the help so far. What I found most helpful in the suggestion is to just get rid of the 3.5. So I was having like some other issues of some things that I messed up with. Just trying to, like, let's say, take it to see how far I could take it. And that shifting over to 4.0 had like a huge amount to where almost I wouldn't say that it even makes sense to have a 3.5 there. It's just such nonsensical results that yeah, it's not worth the money. It's almost more trouble than it's worth, because if I had not started there and I started at 4.0, I think I would have went a little bit of a different route. But once I got on there, it's like much smoother sailing. So if anybody's having any trouble, switch to 4.0, and you might want to make that the default.
That's good to know. Thank you.
That's
for
great to
sharing.
know. Yeah. Thanks, Adam.
At least
I'm glad.
At least training. Like, if you're just trying to train stuff and like get it working, and then maybe switching back to a cheaper version after, I don't know, maybe there's something internally that's better trained. But I did have a question. So I've got a client, and the client is a store, okay? And this store has like 1,000 products, okay? So they have inventory, and then they have like 6 different locations of inventory, and all of that inventory is on a link, and all those links can be sent through a delivery service. And my question is, right now, I see probably the only way to get those links in there is through the Q&A session. So let's say I want to make a recipe on like how to make a milkshake, right? You need milk, you need chocolate cocoa powder, you need this, you need that. And in my store, it has milk and cocoa powder and eggs or whatever else goes in the milkshake, right? And I want to give them those links. Is there any, because right now to do the Q&A and to do a long one on the Q&A, you have to keep scrolling to the bottom. It's not on the top. Is there any way that I can, let's say, feed into that? So my store is going to have one thing, which is inventory control. So I know if, okay, they don't have it at the Miami location, but they have it at the Fort Lauderdale location. And two, is there any plans or any way to, let's say, upload those in mass where I don't have to do it like such handiwork?
Like a CSV. Yeah. So
Yeah.
while you're saying that, Tim, let's make a note of pagination for Q&A, and then also I think upload CSV Q&A.
Yeah,
Like-
hold on. Okay, upload CSV. And then also, Adam, didn't you also mention that you think the button to add them should be at the top of the page? Is that right? For the Q&A?
Yeah, so you gotta scroll down through your entire list. If you have
Yeah,
a list, and then that takes like 3 minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, with my
Yeah.
list,
that's a good
it's, like, really
point. Yeah. Okay, we will get
I
that
got-
changed. That's a very good idea.
So it'd be better to just have it at the top so I can just add quick and then go.
sure.
And would
Cool.
there be a way to connect the API to that as well? So if the inventory management system of my my restaurant or my store or whatever it is, they have 5 sandwiches in stock or whatever it is, and they have their inventory control, if I could somehow connect that via API.
It's possible. I mean, we could provide an endpoint specifically for the Q&As, and anytime that store adds inventory, they could send data to add a Q&A. I could see that working, if that
They
makes
can
sense.
almost update the Q&A. So if it was in the form of
Right.
a CSV, you could just keep the
Yeah.
Q&A in that form, and they can just constantly update that instead of having the physical, get it physically filled. That would be much
I
better.
see.
Yeah.
I see. You mean like instead of inputting the Q&A from an interface, doing it maybe from like a Google Sheet or something, and
That
it
might be a better
watches?
idea. Because what would happen is if I have live inventory, 2 of them got bought in Miami, they have 0 inventory. That would allow it to, let's say, update and tell me what's there, what's not there.
Tim, this is what I was saying earlier about how we can add more functionality through endpoints, because
Right.
we've been talking about which endpoints we need to add to the API next, and there's 4 or 5 that are going to allow for all these things to happen, essentially like being able to create and update a knowledge base via the API. And
Right.
you can then also add the ability into then maybe scrape a website in that process via API. Like that's kind of the idea of where we could take the API to then facilitate for that specific use case.
Yeah, agreed completely. And Adam, can you just do me a favor and think about how the best way you think it would be, maybe in a Google Sheet, or maybe in Excel or something that they watch, and then email me, because I know you have my email address. So just email me and let me know, and we can look into adding other integrations to pull data from like other systems like Google Sheets. We've done it before, this developer team of mine. So we're very familiar with the Google Sheets API.
Nice.
So yeah, let me know.
I'll talk to my guys at the actual stores and ask them kind of their feedback as well, like what they currently use. Because I know they have some things that are like out there, but I'm sure they have some integration with Google Sheets as well. So I'll confirm and get back to you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you.
Cool. So Ham, is your mic working now?
Yes, it's working now.
There we go.
Am I audible? Yeah.
Gotcha. Hey,
So,
how's it going?
yeah, how are you?
Good.
So actually, I've got a client who has a payroll software.
Okay.
So, this software is basically it is currently on a website. So, he needs the chatbot for the internal use. Basically, for it, the software can mark basically what happens is the HR department of a company marks the attendance of their employees via his software. So that is just one of the functionalities. But the HR guys have to go at the end of the month to see which employee has come on which day and all of those things. So I'm pretty sure that this thing could be automated. Like if they just ask the chatbot that, for example, did Sam come today? How many days Sam did not come? So I guess the chatbot could reply, right, that Sam could not come 7 days in this month,
Mm-hmm.
based on the because the chatbot will have the information of the website. Uh, I'm
Oh,
sure that would happen, right?
so you're
That,
saying, oh, so you're
yeah.
saying this data is published on a website currently? Is that how it is?
Yeah, right.
So that could definitely work. The one thing we would need to do is right now our scraping works by scraping once, but it'd be fairly easy for us to add an option like a checkbox to, scrape once a day or scrape once every X hours. So we could
Okay.
certainly do that. And it seems like that would kind of support the use case you're looking for. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
But
that will
there's all. Mhm. Yeah. What were you saying?
that will
Oh, no, I
come
was
after
just
our
confirming.
character updates as well.
Yeah. And Ross, just an
Uh,
FYI, the complexity of that is not high getting that to be done. So, but yeah,
okay.
I will add that to
But
our list.
yeah, but the thing is that the software has around 1,000 employees registered to it. So would that work still?
You
Like
mean because of the number of employees on the page, like
yeah,
1,000?
yeah,
Mhm.
It should be
yeah.
fine. It should be
Yeah.
absolutely fine. Yeah.
So
And that's why we have to do it after the character count limitations.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
okay. So basically, it would be having around 1,000 employees data for the whole month. This is just a We are just working on a proof of concept with him right now.
Hmm.
So this is just a small project. If this works, then there are other areas of the software which need to be automated.
Cool.
Okay.
So yeah, would that work? I suppose yes.
Yes, it would work once we have that feature out. So we'll have to
Yeah.
keep you informed on that. Also, keep in mind that web page would have to be public, or somehow, that our bot
Yeah,
could access it.
I so here's the thing, right? I would get the admin access of the software
Mhm.
of the web page. So would that work? Like how would that work?
Mm,
Because in theory it is not public, right? But I do have the access to its admin access.
probably not.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Yeah.
Right. So what could be is there any other way that this data could be utilized to get the job done?
It's
So
possible.
well,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ross.
honestly, using advanced analytics or code interpreter on ChatGPT would probably be the best use case. So
Okay.
you would download that information into a file and then upload that file to advanced analytics and then be able to query that data as analytics.
Hmm. All right, I understand.
Because
Uh,
our systems are not intended to return analytics.
hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like whereas advanced analytics within ChatGPT, that's why it's a separate thing other than ChatGPT. So when
Uh,
you're trying to query it, like, stuff like that outside of fairly simplistic equations, it's it's a little bit outside of the scope of what is intended as the core concept of what these chatbots are intended to do.
okay, gotcha. And can you please like tell me what should I charge for this thing? Because I have no clue actually. Like what would be the value of this?
Yeah,
Uh,
I have a video that I'll send you in the chat here that has a really good tutorial on that.
Okay, thank you. And one of my question was, so I basically bought the subscription on 5th, I guess. So it would be available for me till next 5th, right?
Correct.
Okay. And just a random question, right? Suppose I give this thing data to write a book. Like I give it a data.
With
Data
Monday
set.
Sales CRM, I can help my
Whoa.
Oh, I started the video. Whoops.
Can I
So,
should I speak or?
Yeah, keep going.
So suppose I train this. Can I train this bot to basically write a book? That is what my question was. Like, is that possible?
You can. It's not intended for that.
Okay, gotcha. That was just a random question.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Graham.
Right. My question is when you add the questions and answers, if it's the bot asking the question, it's the wrong way around. Is that just me not thinking this the right way around?
It's the query is the user's message that is being accepted by the system and then
Right.
sent to the bot or sent to OpenAI to then get the response.
Right, because the thing is, it looks the wrong way around. Like, for example, I've got, how can you help me? That one works, but the next one is, the answer is step 7. And the question is, yes, that would be really cool. So it appears to be the wrong way around. Because it's from the previous question that it's putting the question. From the previous answer, it sees that as a question.
Wait, like in when you're training it?
Yeah, if you ask a question, say question 5 is, are you losing some leads because a human can't get in touch with them fast enough? Right? And the answer might be, I certainly am, or something like that. I just picked that randomly because that's not what it actually says. And then that would appear to be that is then shown as the question for the next one, not the answer to the previous one. So
yeah, Ross, I think we just may need to modify his prompt template to fit his use case rather than the knowledge base use case. So
I can't see why the question is the question from the human. Surely the question is from the bot, isn't it? Most often, if I want to know how much you're paying for your mortgage, it's the bot that's asking the question, not the human.
No.
Oh, right. I'm clearly missing something.
I think there's a miscommunication somewhere. So the question is from the person, the user. That's the query.
So how much? Yeah, the initial question is, but surely if you're going through a list of things that the bot needs to know, like you would a sales funnel, yeah. Surely the question is coming from the bot, not coming from the human.
The question, I see. The question within the conversation that is being asked to the user to respond back.
That's a response is the answer.
I see.
So is it the wrong way around or what? Because I seem to be training it to answer the question that is previously answered.
Yeah, I think what Tim said. I think we just need to interface with you more one-on-one, and we'll get that sorted.
Yeah, I need to see it. And
I'm having trouble visualizing that. Graham, if you could put send me or Tim your email address, and
I've got Tim's and I've already started to
okay.
send.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. We'll get that sorted.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I'm getting very confused.
Okay. It's I don't know, Tim, do you have any initial ideas on that or just wait till later?
I think wait till later. So
Okay.
it's always, and maybe our terminology we're using is slightly confusing, but it is correct to always send the message that you want ChatGPT to respond to, and it forms its response. And that's basically what we're doing. But I can see how it would get confusing, that's for sure. But we'll take a look, we'll debug and troubleshoot it. It may be something else causing that issue. We'll see.
Because in that stuff that we're sending contains the question, even though what that thing is not actually the question. So I think
it's not always a question.
It's not always a question.
Sometimes it's the user responding with like, "Oh, I live at 123, USA Lane."
Throwing me out, I think.
But we had to name the variable, right, when we were writing the code. So we came up with that. But it's a good point.
The training feels a bit weird. It says, hang on, am I training it the wrong way around here? Or what am I, Have a look so we can go through it. I was probably 5 minutes and we'll just click.
Gotcha. So specifically when you're clicking the train better response and then it pulls it up and the top question says, yes, I'd like to get that. And then the response is something that you're trying to change.
Is the next question.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, yeah. So the best practice is to change that top response from yes, that's fine to what that question actually should be to get the response. So because when we're giving that information to OpenAI, they're taking the top results within the knowledge base that could be that question and answer pair. Right. So if we don't give it anything other than that question and answer pair in scenario A, where it has, yes, that's fine, and the response, the chatbot has no context of what the question is and what the response should be. So it doesn't know what to respond. In scenario B, if we change that top response to be, how many bedrooms are in your house, for example, and then the answer would be, this is why you need to have so many bedrooms, like whatever that's what you need to actually have as the question and answer pair to be given. So that way context is provided within that question and answer pair.
You can go, we can talk and you can go through my prompt and tell me where it's going wrong. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. And we'll go through your Q&A in the knowledge base too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there one in the Adam?
That was a mistake. I'm good. Thanks.
Oh, okay, cool. Sounds good. Let's see. We don't have a Discord or Slack yet. It's something that we've been mulling over. I mean, I guess just by a quick little show of hands or voting, if we did have one of those, would everyone in here join that or use it or like that? Yeah. Okay.
Guess I'm the only one.
Well, to be fair, Dan, I mean, I've seen it work so there's a new browser I'm using called Sidekick, and they do have a public Discord. And it seems to work well for them. They have, thousands of users there, but it is something we would have to manage and stuff like that. So that is something we're considering.
Yeah, I totally understand. There's a maintenance side of it for sure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I ran one in the past for my GHL white label, and it was rough.
Right. Yeah, I've run a few as well. I was just I'm happy to be a community member.
Cool. Appreciate it. School. Yeah, that's what's that? What's Sam Ovens thing, right? I think. School. Yeah. I've not really looked into that one yet, but yeah. It's probably, yeah, I don't know. We'll probably end up just doing it and then hiring a community manager and then try to pop. The thing is, I think I just don't want to have to feel like I have to be online on a Discord all day long. But if that's something that people will utilize, then we'll do it for sure. So as we wrap up here, thank you everyone for joining. If there's any last questions, we can handle those. If not, if you are a current subscriber or you're planning on signing up this week, you can drop your email in the chat and we will add 5 chatbots to your account. And this is only for...
What do we have to do?
Just put your email address in that you use to sign up for your paid account in the chat. And we'll get 5 chatbots added to your account. And this is for anybody who's an existing paying subscriber or plans on signing up this week for a paid subscription. We'll get all those added a little bit later today. Cool. Tim, you have anything else you'd like to share with everybody?
No, that's it. I think we covered the main things. I mean, we're working on everything everyone has suggested as far as features we're working on, and of course our Zapier app should be available. We think in probably the next week or two. It just depends on them approving it. And then we have a lot of other cool stuff in the pipe after that. So please keep joining the office hours. It's very helpful to get all of your feedback.
Definitely. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week.
Great. Talk to you all later.
See ya.